I uvanga Akootchook matumeagalo, panikpagalo, taipanalo, Allison Akootchook Warden uvanga, Kaktovik miranga, Iñupiaq uranga, Akootchook koyat uvanga, Adiga Texas miranga, Akupaq, performance artist, poet. I am Allison Akootchook Warden. I am an Iñupiaq poet, performance artist, visual artist, and musician. I would say interdisciplinary artist. And my people are from Kaktovik, and my family name is Akootchook. I am not a fluent speaker of Inupiaq, although sometimes in my dreams I give very beautiful, eloquent Inupiaq speeches. I grew up around the language. I grew up around elders that are only speaking in Inupiaq, elders that grew up in sod houses, completely on the land. I was very fortunate to be immersed in this environment as a very young person. And so I remember how they were in their spirit. And that's where my performance comes from, embodying who they are. Language is our unique fingerprint on the earth. It is unique to who we are, as different from all different people, as like Ugandan or Montreal. It is a unique worldview that is only Inupiaq. Specifically Kaktovik, which is an island in the Arctic Ocean. We have our own dialect. We are related to all the Inuit, circumpolar people. We are one people. The language is important in my work because I think of the future. I think of the future of like 50 years, young people who will engage with my work. I want them to know, I want them to hear the language and know that it was at the forefront of my thoughts and my practice. And because it expresses our worldview in a way that doesn't translate to English. We do not translate into English. We can negotiate, but there's many parts of us has no translation. So I put the language at the forefront so that it can be experienced, and the feeling is there, and you don't have to understand what I'm saying to feel who we are in your bones. Inupiaq live on the very edges of the world. I consider us on the very edges of the psychological mind frame of people. We're like romanticized very often. It's like this phantological idea of these human beings living in the cold, in a snow house, in the earth, in the ice house, and surviving on the very, very edges of everything, in the very coldest places. And I find in academia especially, there's a kind of a romanticization that happens with our people, and there's a tendency to think of us in the past because they haven't engaged with someone in person. And there's a disassociation that happens between our physical 2024 selves to the idea of who we are that is expressed in terms of the past. Myself is a cutting edge. There was no break in who we are. There is a continuum of who we are. There was never a break, even though it seems like there would be a break in who we are. I am the 2024 version of who my great-great-great-grandmother is. If my great-great-great-great-great-grandmother was alive in 2024, she would be a performance artist, a poet, a visual artist. She would be making regalia that fit with the time. We are very, our culture is, we adapt. I'll tell one more story around this. My elders, when the first copy machine was made, my great uncle bought a huge copy machine and had it shipped to his village, to our village. And this humongous, can you imagine in the 70s, there was this humongous copy machine, one of the first prototypes. He brought it because he didn't want to use glasses, so he would take the copy machine and make the words bigger himself and enlarge it. He was like 80 years old when he was doing this. My other great uncle, every time the phone rang, because he had a hard time hearing, he rigged up a light to the phone and it would blink like, he rigged up an emergency light, like on an ambulance. He took a light from an ambulance and connected it to the phone, and every time that the phone would ring, it would ambulance all around his house. He had 2 lights, and it would bling, 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 so he would know that the phone was ringing. We would take whatever the Western world had to offer in terms of technology or whatever came, and we would take it and make it Iñupiaq. So I'm taking anything like performance art or visual art or poetry, and I'm, oh, this is interesting. It's Iñupiaq, because I am Iñupiaq. I don't rap as much anymore, but I started maybe 32 years ago now that I started that process. It was a way to reach the young people. Now the poetry has, because rap has a connection to poetry, now I have transitioned into a poet explicitly, because I like the power of the word just on the paper, quietly being able to be digested by people who can take it at their own pace. Yesterday I gave a graduate student of yours a piece of my work to read at her own pace, to see if it would be appropriate, the tone for the group. And I appreciated how it was under her own permission, how she wanted to take in the work. It wasn't barreled at her like a machine gun of words, just she had to take it. She had her own agency to engage with it, take a break, go for a walk, maybe come back to it, read a little more. She could choose to read it. She didn't have to, accept that challenge to help me understand the audience. She could have chose like, I can't handle it now, but I will read it in this weekend. So there's more flexibility in how the poetry engages with the audience, as opposed to, I'm in a fixed space, you're either there, present with me, or not. And this is, when you're in the audience, you take what is given you, and you don't have any, there's no conversation how you take it in, unless it's a video and you're watching it. But so I did become a rapper because in my in Kaktovik, I was there, one of my family family places where my people are from. Rap was just coming out in the 90s, and my cousins were listening to this crazy stuff, and I was like, why are you listening to this? It has nothing to do with who we are. And then I saw a performance, and it once again had nothing to do with our experience. And I like hip hop and rap because it is a universal language that has an ethos that translates no matter what the culture. And there's an agreement that it's a modality that anyone can use as a way to express their identity or their issues or politics, or there's a framework there that is adaptable to any culture. The framework of hip-hop. I have made my own version of that that's very Inupiaq. For instance, I rap as the animals. I rap as an ancestor, an elder that came from the future. There's things that I have done in it, but since I've done it for 32 years, it hasn't had a natural arc that it's a wonderful medium, and I'm very good at it. I just love the quietness of taking words, similar to how I use words for rap, but it's like sewing. You're quietly sewing the words onto a page, and you imagine someone like your graduate student quietly taking it in like a piece of sewing and wearing it in that moment. And it's just so private and intimate, instead of like, you know, and they're like, ah. It's like, oh, a book. Oh. So you can have the same effect, but in a quiet way that involves permission. Yes, and that becomes a performance. And I didn't expect that initially. I think a long time ago there was an article that came out about me, and they said, spoken word poet Allison Akootchook Warden. And I was like, I don't do spoken word. I've never done spoken word. Where does this come from, you know? And so I was like, well, I'll just become that thing, because I thought it was so funny, you know, that I was so like, it was in a paper, it was a major thing. And I was like, that's a funny thing. And I was like, So, but now I have written poetry throughout my life, but lately I've been publishing more. But I didn't realize when I started to read it. I was reading poetry like a year ago in Stuttgart, Germany, and it became such a performance, and I didn't expect it to be that. When I read it, that it would just infuse, like it becomes its own thing. I just thought it would be like, I'm reading something. It's like, no, it becomes its own form of art, and so I like it. There's a certain power to it, but I don't write with that in mind. I write for the person who wants to be at a cafe or in their home, on their couch with their Snuggies, and they can engage with it how they want. And then if it translates to performance, then, well, it will, irregardless, because I'm a performance person. I've been performing since I was 8, so it will, anything I touch will have a performance element to it. Even this right now. I don't think in terms of politics, but it just happens to be that my body is political. Me being in a space where I'm less than 0.0 something% of the global population is political. me being an Indigenous woman is political. When I come into a space, I am myself. I am Iñupiaq. That act of being Iñupiaq is taken in in a political way, because I am like an exotic creature, like an anomaly almost within the larger global context. It's like, oh, Eskimo, Eskimo. Oh, I've never met one of you. You know, so it becomes like I'm excited. I'm like a very when I enter a space, unless I'm in an Inuit community, then often I'm the only one or the only one ever. And so that becomes a political gesture in and of itself, just entering a space. Because then people are forced, I'm not forcing them, I'm just entering the room, I'm hungry. I want to do what humans do. I have 10 fingers and 10 toes. I'm getting a coffee. I don't know what I'm doing, I'm just there. I'm in the space, but when they find out where I am from, then it's like, it positions them in a place towards me. Like, I am this, I am from this. And so then it's like, oh, but I am from this. And so there becomes a relationship there. And often it's like, I've never thought of people from there. And now you're alive. And you're in my face, and you have blood, and you want a coffee, like me. But you're alive. But it evokes all these things, these people, I could see it every single time, like, oh, you're real, like you're real. And I'm like, yes, and I'm hungry, and is there a place for me? You know, so, but it creates a reaction within people, which forces them to go to the very psychological edge of what they thought humanity is. Often, the people on the furthest edge of a place they would never think people are, but they're there somehow, but they're in the abstract, and they're far away, and they're romanticized, and they're in the past. But all of a sudden, I'm wearing funky clothing, and I'm in a space, and I'm like, I want cheese, you know, or whatever, you know, and I'm like, hello, and I'm also Inupiaq, and that just being me in any space is a political thing. And so I do it with as much love and kindness, again and 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 again. And that is part of our being of a people in this larger global world. And I'm at peace with that. I think it's fun. I make it fun. When I was 13, not so much fun. No. Now at my age, it is fun. It's beautiful. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful, the kind of excitement that people have sometimes from meeting an Inuit is so sweet. And then I joke to my people, my own people, I say, I tell them everyone's like me. And they're like, oh, you know, and because I'm really like an artist, like really out there. And they're like, I tell them we're all like me. And they're like, you do? You know, and then they laugh, you know. So but I might be the only person they'll ever meet. And so I just think it's funny when I go back to my village and I say, I went to Stuttgart and I told them, we're all the same like me. And they're like, oh, you did that again, you know. But it's just, it's fun that way to engage with people and let them get a little taste of who we are. I am Iñupiaq. I am half Missourian, but I grew up Iñupiaq. I grew up in the way of the Iñupiaq. My mom was very like scientific almost about how she raised me to make sure I was Iñupiaq. Like make sure I know how to sew. Make sure I know the values. She was very strategic in how she raised me to make sure that I was carrying, especially the family tree. I don't know everything. Other of my cousins hold different parts of the culture, and I hold certain parts as best as we can. I am Iñupiaq. I am an Iñupiaq, and I also am an artist. I would say that when I think of my village that I did not grow up in, that I am a tribal member of, most people are artistic. I have many family members who are very, very artistic. Did they choose to pursue it like a profession like me in a very big, crazy professional way where you're traveling all over the world? No. But they do create work at home and they use different materials and they're very artistic. I've heard it say, our art is not separate from our culture. It is just all in, it's part of who we are as a people, is our art. In our clothing and everything that we are, we're very, there's no separation. So I would say most Iñupiaq are artists, but they don't choose it to pursue it relentlessly like a profession, which is very specific. But I'm doing it, and others are too. Does that make sense?